Hey everybody, it's Dave. I recorded an interview with Chris Kavanagh of Decoding the Gurus in July of this year. I put out the first part of it as a podcast, and this part is what we talked about after, like I guess the post game or the after podcast discussion. I thought it was interesting. A couple interesting things came up, and so I'm putting it out as a bonus on our podcast feed. Thanks for checking out the show. Cool. That was fun. Thanks, man.
Yeah. So, like, do I need to do anything on this, or like when I leave, it just
you just disappear when you leave? And I tell this to everybody I have on. Just hit me up if you, for whatever reason, want like the raw recording of this. Like if you think something like I'm not going to edit it because I'm fucking lazy.
I know. I mean, I'm not that I know you're lazy. I mean, I know the horrors of editing. So
I don't edit. But if you and Matt like want this for any reason, you're welcome to the raw recording.
I'll probably just like link to wherever you put it up on the like our Patreon. That's what I did with like Ina's stuff. But I'm probably, it's the wrong point to mention this, Dave. But But I think we covered it anyway whenever we were talking. But I did want to say, I was listening to an episode a while back. Where, like I've got the feed, so I guess it's just the Dollar Tree, but not the other parts, right? Because you have other shows. So, and you were, I think you were covering David Fuller, and I can't remember who the other guy was, but it was like. But you were complaining about that thing. Oh no, actually, it was me. Yeah, I should remember the other guy. It was me. And you were.
Did I put that out? Did I put that out like as bonus content? I must have put it out as like bonus content or something. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And I'm not taking it as a like. I'm not noising. And this thing you said, I thought I just wanted to mention that you were talking about that like. David Fuller's like kind of the tendency for people to trade paragraphs, right? Like they say a chunk and then they have like a counter response and so on. And I will say that like I definitely am guilty of that. I'm guilty of that in this very conversation we just had. But the other thing is on my side, I don't know if, because I was thinking like, don't you have this? Because when we are editing the podcast, right, the worst thing to deal with is like overtalk, right? Because
you know what's going on is I think that that's a function of latency. When you get overtalk, right, that's the reason we use this service. There's no server, like we're peer to peer, so like there's no I can take like you end up with overtalk, but like that's because you're like right now what do we have?
We've got delay.
But our round trip is 1/10 of a second right now, so that's
yeah.
So that's like and so you end up with more overtalk on other services because there's like it's going to be like a half a second,
right? So like I think this is my theory. So I just wanted to tell you this like one part of my theory for that is I know the sense makers are like they communicate in paragraphs anyway. That's just their like natural cadence, but I think a little part of it, at least with Matt and I, is that we've become more accustomed to like speak in a block and then stop, right? And then let the other person respond. Like because of podcasting, it's like a weird podcasting thing that, you maybe because of that latency thing that you speak for a while and then you shut up and let the other person take over.
I hope I wasn't like, I don't know. I don't even really remember that very well, but no, I mean, I didn't bring up David Fuller specifically because I don't know. I've been doing a lot on David Fuller lately. And,
yeah, listen.
But my thing about sense making is that I think it's like the rejection of empiricism. It's like the do your own research of the IDW.
Man, we should talk about that.
But I didn't want to. I wanted to, at the beginning, I wanted to make sure that we got out a little bit about like you being a Northern Irish person in Japan, because I'd really never heard you even talk about that. Like, and I thought that would be a kind of a better way to open it. even though that burned some time that we could have used talking about
I'm
David
sorry.
Fuller.
It's like it probably in part because I don't talk about it that much. It's just like, oh,
Well,
why
no,
am
that's
I
why
here?
that's why I asked. I thought it was interesting, and I thought maybe people who have kind of gotten to know you online who haven't heard that might be interested in it. That's why I asked. But yeah, and I also
Yeah.
just didn't want to get into David Fuller too much because my opinion on him is well known, and I think that he has, like, him having you on, knowing that you were going to be critical, was actually fairly surprising.
You know the thing that I've thought was interesting, and I, by the way, Dave, if you need to go, just like,
Oh no, I'm just didn't want to keep. I didn't want to keep you too long. Oh, and I hope you. For my patrons, is it okay with you if I put out this kind of after conversation?
oh yeah, no bothers. I meant like, you know, I'm being self-indulgent a little bit,
No, that's fine.
and I didn't want to keep you from
No,
anything.
I mean, what I have to do after this is my day job, and I don't really like my day job. So if you want to burn a little more time here, it's fine. I just didn't want to keep you up late because I know you have like a kid and a normal life. So
something like that. But the one thing I did want to say, like, was, so when you were talking about like David Fuller and, you know, his announcement of wrapping up Rebel Wisdom and that, and I know that like you're very skeptical of him in general, but and the whole, you know, breath work.
well, what we noticed and what my chat noticed is that in that audience, those were his paying people on the screen, and it was a lot of old people, and I like that. It squicks me out. I'm just, as my parents get older, and I'm aware that their faculties are going to go, like they're not there yet, but as my parents get older and I become aware of the fact that their faculties are going to go, that stuff just starts to, like, when I see people like taking money from old people, it just starts to like really like hit me like on a personal level because of my own kind of knowledge of my own parents' mortality and how supportive, like how important a part of my life my parents are. And so that just hits me on like a personal way that
I get that.
I think maybe might even cause me to be unfair to some people, but
it's no, because the interesting thing is like I don't get that vibe so much from like the David and the I don't know actually the wider ecosystem.
we call the other guy Man Bun.
Yeah, I haven't even seen him, so you know I'm not so sure about that. But like with David, I think, you know, I am more positively disposed towards him than you are. But the thing that I wanted to say was like, you know, setting aside the breath work, because like I probably share all of the views that you have about, like, you know, like I would be extremely skeptical about chiropractic.
For me, it's the, you know, what do they say? It's the money Lebowski. That's the thing that bothers me, is that it's older people that he's taking money from, and I just.
So the like I'm probably skeptical of that whole area in the same way I am, like, you know, of Gwyneth Paltrow or that kind of thing in the same way. But like I get the point about, especially if it's directed at an older crowd that might be like more.
Well, I don't know if it's directed
vulnerable.
there. It's like it's that like that's kind of who found it.
The honey trap.
Right, and that's who found it. And if I was like charging people for some kind of seminar and I looked out in the audience and it was like a lot of older people that were there to see me because I'm smart or that I made them feel smart, I would probably like start to question like my own behavior. I would hope that I would. Maybe I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd drink my own Kool-Aid if there was the fucking money flowing in. Who knows? I mean, we're all fallible, you know?
I know. I had this. The Stoa, this other channel I went on, had a large amount of bearded older men, but they all seemed like, you know, kind of crazy professors. That's the vibe.
Those people are okay to grift.
So the one thing that I will say, just like that struck me, is I heard on your episode, like, David talking about, you know, the plans for the future, right? And the people he was talking about were John Vervaeke, Jonathan Pajot, and a couple of other people who I can't remember now. But from my point of view, most of those figures are, you know, you kind of condemn David for, like, you know, falling for Jordan Peterson, and he's become more critical of Peterson and Weinstein. But you are, I think, legitimately saying, you know, well, but don't you think about like why you didn't see the problem before? But I actually agree. When I was listening to that, I was like, those people that you're saying are, you know, the better people to focus on. To me, I had my own run-in with Peugeot recently.
Yeah,
but
I was unaware of any of these people, and because I never preview something before I run it. I had no background.
You don't know
on
those
these people.
guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know them all, but the ones that I do know, like Daniel Schmachtenberger and stuff.
That's a rad name, by the way.
Yeah, Daniel Schmachtenberger was on Rogan, with Tristan Harris, the anti-Facebook guy, and did you listen to our episode about Jordan Hall?
I mean, I think I listened to every one of your episodes, but you're deep enough into it that I'm not gonna be able to recall it.
He's like a tech guy who, he's a sense maker. He makes big, long-winded analogies that don't really go anywhere and stuff. But those guys are selling like brain pills, kind of Rogan.
Nootropics.
Yeah,
I call it Goop for tech bros because it's probably literally the same products on Gwyneth Paltrow's website, just marketed basically to me.
Yeah, and I was I was kind of surprised because I thought but those guys, I'm not sure, in 5 years' time, you're not going to be regretting, the same way with Jordan Peterson and Brett and stuff, because I see a lot of the same warning signs, so they're just not as big yet. So, yeah, that was just, I was kind of when David said he was closing it down and focusing on other stuff, I am curious to see what he does, but I was just I don't know that you're going to take a better route if you focus your content on those elements of the sense making ecosystem.
When you hit me up and you were like, "Oh, this is just some hippie shit," I understand that it's probably Northern Irish, sort of sarcasm,
yeah,
and breathwork is some weird hippie shit, but maybe at the time too, because I was that was the moment I realized that he was grifting older people. Maybe at the moment I didn't understand that you were coming at me with Northern Irish sarcasm. And if I responded in kind of a cattier, shittier, bitchy way, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I don't mind everybody. I kind of, people can criticize who they want online, and it's fine if they don't share the same assessment. I had the conversation with Ina, and we don't agree on everything.
Such a good conversation, though. I enjoyed it very much. I have her on at the end of July. It'll just be me and her glad handing, though. It'll be just high fives and shit the whole time, right?
Yeah, so I don't mind, people disagree, saying why they've, having the different assessment than I do, but I feel like my kind of warning antenna is quite finely attuned, and I'm not saying that I'm going to pick up on everyone, but I do feel I don't get a warning going off with David Fuller. I feel, and I've said to him, he thinks I'm too cynical and cruel to people, and I think he's too credulous and hippy dippy. And I think you guys were right when you said they're heading off into spiritual world.
Yeah, well, there wasn't a you guys actually. Unfortunately, HK Hunter has jury duty, which sucks. And so he's he's trying to while he's on the jury not be running his mouth online.
Yeah, that's a reasonable thing. But they talked about that pivot, right? And I was not that, because I've that's part of the thing. I think that when I've talked to David and the other ones, I'm an atheist. Right, I study religion.
That used to not be a dirty word. Now some of them done shit the bed and just become a bunch of skull measurers.
I know, but but the opposite side of this kind of the Jordan Peterson metaphorical religion thing. People act like this is this really new thing, and if you're. It's so not.
Did you see Matt Dillahunty when he talked to Jordan Peterson and just completely fucking dismantled Jordan Peterson?
No, although I think I've heard that he did so. So
he did so, and then bragged about it afterwards, and then went on other podcasts to make fun of Jordan Peterson. So,
well, that's
not dispositionally how he usually is. So that was pretty surprising, actually.
I think if you listen to the interview with Dawkins and Peterson on your show, you would enjoy it.
Oh no,
well.
we did. Well, what we did was we watched Travis Pangburn watching it. I don't know if you know who Travis Pangburn is.
Oh, I know Travis Pangburn.
Travis Pangburn called me the R slur when I tried to talk to him. Like he was like, anybody can join my Discord and talk to me at night. And so like I was like on the show, and he had like put that out there, and I was like, I was talking shit in his YouTube comments about he had Destiny on, and like after he had Destiny on,
oh yeah, I remember
he said a bunch of nasty shit about Destiny, but didn't say any of that nasty shit about Destiny during the interview. And I was like, what a coward. I was like, Steven would have absolutely demolished you if you would have like, because I don't like Destiny. I think he's like, yeah, but I think he can rope a dope, right? And and if I would be like hesitant to have a confrontation with him just because.
No, I think he would own me.
Yeah, he would. He'd probably,
like even if it was right or wrong.
Right. Yeah. He's just good at rhetoric. He's been doing it for so long and talking to so many people. And but yeah, that I went into his Discord and I was like, oh, I'm actually on the air right now. I had criticized you on my show and you didn't like it. And he's like saying, oh, well, this isn't the room, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't agree. And I'm like, oh, I got to go then if you don't agree to being recorded. And he's like, oh, no, we have to go to this other room in my Discord. And I was like, well, what's the difference between the two rooms? And then I think I called him a weird nerd. Then he called me a word I don't say that starts with R, and it's a slur for people with disabilities. And I was like, and then he hung up and kicked me out of his Discord. It was just such an odd experience. But he's the one who hosted the debate between Jordy Pete and Matt Dillahunty. And then we watched him watch the video of Jordan Peterson and Richard Dawkins, and he was like apologizing for Jordan Peterson because Dawkins at one point was like, I don't think you just said anything or something like that.
Yeah. like
I don't remember what the exact thing was. He basically said that was word salad without saying it. And then Pangburn says,
drunk on metaphors.
And then Pangburn says, oh, this guy just doesn't understand Jordan Peterson. I'm like, no, I think he has a pretty clear understanding of what's going on.
There's lots of things you can criticize Dawkins for, but in that interview, I had deep sympathy for him because he was just, you could hear his like Britishness saying, you think that your consciousness can extend to the level of the DNA? You really think that?
It was painful because I think he didn't do like his due diligence before going on with Peterson, and he was kind of dumbfounded by just how much nothing that guy can say in such a long period of time.
Yeah, it was like 70% Jordan, and it was supposed to be an interview of Dawkins. So like, but
it was bad. But I don't know if I'd watch the whole thing. I think we kind of got what we wanted out of watching Travis Pangburn sit there and apologize for Jordy Pete. It was pretty funny.
If you heard that bit, it was mainly the bits where like, they tried to wrap up the interview and Dawkins is like, okay, we got to go over and meet the person and Jordan continues recording while they're walking around.
I didn't see that part. So it was like a clout chase, right?
It like Dawkins said, we need to, I think we need to go now, we said 1 hour and blah, blah, and then Jordan says, it just keeps going, and like they're walking, through the building, and you're hearing like the doors open and close, and then Jordan's just continuing to try to do the interview, and then eventually they meet someone and go, and it's like, Dawkins was obviously at his like limit of tolerance, so it was just such a weird thing.
They were in person, is that right? And then they walked together, and Jordan was recording it like on his phone or something.
Yeah, he must have been like holding on his phone.
I think that's a clout chase. I think he was trying to kind of show his audience that he's able to pal around kind of with Richard Dawkins. I think that maybe that's why I would do that if I was with someone famous. I mean, I can't assume people aren't that different from one another, right? If I had someone famous, I would definitely try to record the part I thought was palling around, especially if I was oblivious to the fact that they were very annoyed with me.
Yeah.
But that's where we're having like a community around me where the people would say, hey, this person's actually annoyed with you, Dave.
I'll go after this, Dave, and I'm sorry for the self-indulgence, but
I just wanted to keep the podcast part short. Like I said, all I have to do is my day job. I just know that it's late for you. That's all.
So the example I want to give, and it's random. It's like it's not in our neck of the woods, but I saw this today and was like, oh man, the world's changing because there's like this Japanese kind of YouTube comedian guy who makes fun. He does these little skits. He's called Sora the Troll, right? And he's a voice actor, but he does these little skits about like Japanese people reacting to English people and vice versa. And his videos are normally like 3 minutes or 5 minutes, like little short skits. And then he today had like a hour and 40-minute release, and the title, like all of his things are skits, and this one was like, I'm leaving my house and I'm never speaking to my dad again, or something like this, right? And I was like, is this is that a skit or what's that? And I looked, and it's not. It's like
is this a young person?
It's a 30-year-old person, so
younger than us, but not young.
Yeah. So, but it's a big. I didn't watch all of it. Obviously, it was just like, what is this? And then was like while I was coming back from work, and But the thing that I wanted to the reason I'm mentioning that is that guy was like, he was talking about these really toxic family dynamics, right? He was going into all this personal stuff, like diagrams and stuff he was drawing, but he had the the chat channel like going, and the people like kind of giving him support, and then they're also donating, so there's like a slight weird dynamic as well. But it was kind of like, I don't know how I feel. Like, this is weird because this is somebody like talking about genuine, real stuff going on in their life to their like YouTube chat room, but it sounds like their real life is a mess. And their YouTube chat room has given them, like, they bought a house. They basically bought a house to get away, and they were able to buy the house because they have a large enough following that they could. I was like, man, I'm really confused about like the badness or goodness of the whole parasocial thing, because it's kind of like he got out of a toxic family dynamic, but like these people aren't your friends, right? These are, but like in a way they are, because they just care about him as a like a person that they're probably never gonna actually interact with. So those dynamics, like, just as a anthropologist kind of person, it's interesting, right? Like it feels like these are new social dynamics that aren't really clear yet.
There's a member of my community, he calls himself Professor QAnon because he's been writing about QAnon, but he's a sociologist, and he's actually sort of doing some work in the same area about like parasocial relationships, particularly on Twitch. So
yeah, it should be looked into, because the thing is, like, academics are older, right? And Jonathan Haidt talking about social media, he knows nothing about Twitch or anything to do with that, right? Like, they don't know TikTok or that either. And it's,
oh my god, I love TikTok.
I've never used it, so I shouldn't condemn him for.
I have 78 followers there. I'm hella popular.
Yeah, but it's interesting to me, like and I think the IDW sphere and the conspiracy spheres, I understand them, but the Twitch streamers and Destiny, it was kind of, you mentioned Destiny that made me think about it. It's like, that's a whole other thing, and there's like lots of guru dynamics there as well, but it's like,
it's kind of harder to quantify, because if you're not like in the chat, like you maybe if you watch my videos on YouTube, you might see some of the chat dynamics, but I've actually kind of got my chat trained to like fucking chill out. Like basically, if the lights aren't red in here, fucking behave yourselves, because otherwise I will take the chat overlay off, because I don't want people saying like things that make me look dumb or make me look like a certain, because you are the community that you have built around your product. And as I try to like get more people in, because like our other podcasts don't do really well. The Intellectual Dollar Tree does better than we expected. I was actually quite shocked within the first 10 episodes that we had, like episode 10, the day we put it up, it had, 1,500 or 1,600 downloads the day we put it up. And that was shocking to me, because it was brand new. And like as we try to bring more people in, I'm trying to like explain to the regulars in my community sometimes that like, hey, you know, if you're like calling people a Nazi and shit in my chat and that's getting like displayed on the screen, that actually is going to turn some normies off when they find my content like on YouTube or whatever. And I've got them trained, but then again, that's that parasocial relationship shit that you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a problem because I can't control them, but on the other hand, it does reflect back upon me. You know, like the way they behave and the like what they do. Like another thing is if we find somebody doing a live stream, I have to like immediately, because I know the people in my chat are going to go find their live stream. Like if we find somebody, this guy used to work for InfoWars named Dan Badandi. We call him Hamburglar Dan. I don't even know why we call him Hamburglar Dan, but I'm like, okay, you guys I know you're going to go into the chat, but you have to fucking behave yourselves. If you go in there and are abusive and like just basically are brigading him, not only is that against Twitch's terms of service, but also it just bounces back on me in a really ugly way. And it's a thing I criticize other people for. So don't do it.
The Taliban.
Yeah. And then people go like, when I start doing it, like the chat's like, oh, here's Dave giving the be nice to the people in chat speech again. But yeah, hey, if you know, as you're working on like parasocial relationship stuff or anything, if you just have questions about Twitch or whatever, hit me up because I'm on there every day.
Yeah,
I definitely understand. Just like background stuff. If you want to skip a step or whatever.
I don't understand it. So like, I'm not in that ecosystem except as a tourist. So
a week from yesterday will be your Twitch debut because I'm going to run this instead of I'm going to run like the edited out part instead of our normal content. We'll phone it in next Wednesday. So anyway, Chris, it was great to talk to you. I actually do have to go now because I have a meeting.
Yeah,
in 20
me too.
Minutes, and you have go to bed. It was great to finally talk to you. I think it's been over a year in the making, and thanks for what you and Matt do. It like informs some of what we do, and it's the yin to our yang. Even though everybody accuses you of being us when they don't like what you said. Good night, Chris.
Yeah. Night and cheers.